Jason Morgan lived a pretty normal life in a quiet neighborhood in Colorado. He was 34 years old, worked from home as a software engineer, and liked things peaceful and predictable. His job involved long hours in front of a computer screen, solving complex problems for an app development company. When he wasn't working, he enjoyed simple things, watching documentaries, walking his small rescue dog, Max, and making sure everything around him stayed calm. He had moved into his apartment complex about 2 years ago because it was affordable, clean, and close to a good coffee shop and grocery store. The place was part of a homeowners association, or HOA, which meant there were rules about how loud you could be, when you could park your car, and even what color your curtains should be. Most people in the building followed the rules without much drama. Jason especially made sure to follow them, not just because he respected authority, but because he didn't want trouble. Trouble meant stress, and stress messed with his sleep schedule, which messed with his work, and that was the last thing he needed. For the most part, Jason got along well with his neighbors. Some were older couples who kept to themselves. Others were young professionals like him, always in and out with laptops and gym bags. There was one neighbor, though, who stood out, not in a good way. She lived in Unit 5B, right across the hallway from Jason's apartment. Her name was Karen Delaney, though most people in the building just called her Karen from 5B behind her back. She was in her late 50s, always dressed neatly, and had a voice that could cut through walls, even when she wasn't yelling. Karen was known in the building for being particular. She had once complained about someone's dog barking at 3 a.m., even though no one else heard anything. Another time, she called the HOA because a teenager left his skateboard leaning against the wall near the elevator. She once sent a formal email to the entire building because someone had used the wrong trash bin. At first, Jason tried to ignore her. He figured if he stayed quiet, polite, and rule-following, she'd have no reason to target him. But Karen didn't seem to need a reason. It started with little things. One day, Jason came home from a walk with Max and saw Karen standing by the mailboxes, giving him a look like he had done something wrong. He nodded politely and walked past. A few days later, he noticed a note taped to his door. It said, "Please keep your dog under control. I heard barking all night." Jason checked his phone. It had been a quiet night. Max had slept the whole time. Then came the complaint about his parking. He usually parked in the same spot in the underground garage, and one morning, he got a notice from the HOA saying he had parked over the line. The note was signed by Karen. He went down to check and realized he had parked perfectly fine. There was maybe an inch of tire on the line, but nothing serious. Still, Karen had reported it. Next, she complained about the way he mowed the lawn. Not that he even had a lawn. He had a small balcony with some potted plants. But during one of the rare HOA community cleanup days, Karen told the board that Jason's lawn maintenance was sloppy. Jason didn't say anything. He just smiled, nodded, and walked away. But inside, he was starting to feel frustrated. Why did this woman hate him so much? What had he ever done to her? Things escalated slowly but surely. One evening, Jason was watching a movie after finishing work early. He had the volume low, just enough to hear dialogue clearly. Around 9 p.m., he got a text from the HOA app. It was a noise complaint filed by Karen. She claimed Jason was playing music too loudly at night. He looked at his TV. It was barely audible. He hadn't even turned the subwoofer on. Jason replied to the message, politely explaining that his volume was low and offering to send a screenshot of his TV settings if needed. The HOA responded with a neutral message, asking everyone to be respectful. The next week, another complaint came in. This time, Karen said Jason had hosted a party until 2 a.m. Jason was alone that night, eating cereal and reading tech blogs online. There was no party, no guests, no loud music. Just silence. That's when Jason realized something was off. These complaints weren't real. They were fake. Karen was making them up. And worse, the HOA was taking her word without checking for proof. Jason knew he had to do something. He didn't want to cause a scene, but he also didn't want to live in fear of a false accusation every time he flushed the toilet or opened his window. so he decided to start recording. He bought a small digital audio recorder and placed it near his window and outside his front door. He set it to record automatically whenever sound levels rose above a certain threshold. If Karen accused him again, he would have evidence to prove himself, and deep down, he hoped it wouldn't come to that. But a part of him knew it probably would. Karen wasn't the type to stop just because someone asked nicely, and Jason wasn't the type to let someone ruin his peace without a fight. Jason didn't have to wait long for Karen to strike again. It was a Thursday night and he had just finished a full day of work. He made himself a sandwich, turned on a documentary about space exploration, and settled into his favorite chair, with Max curled up at his feet. The TV was quiet, just loud enough for him to hear clearly, but not so loud that it would bother anyone else. Outside, the neighborhood was calm. A car passed by every few minutes, and somewhere down the street, a dog barked once or twice. That was all. Around 9:47 p.m., Jason's phone buzzed. Another message from the HOA app. He opened it and saw the familiar pattern forming. Another noise complaint, filed by Karen. This time she claimed Jason had hosted a loud game night with friends until late. She described hearing laughter, shouting, and what she called the unmistakable sound of people moving furniture. Jason looked around his apartment. No one was there. Just him and Max. The room was silent except for the soft voice of the narrator on the documentary. He felt a mix of anger and disbelief. This wasn't just annoying anymore. It was ridiculous. How could someone lie like this? And how could the HOA keep taking her word without checking? But instead of getting angry, Jason stayed calm. He remembered the recorder he had set up near the window. He went over, picked it up, and checked the recordings. Sure enough, from 8 p.m. to midnight, there was nothing but silence. No voices. No music, no movement. Just the occasional passing car and the hum of the refrigerator kicking in every now and then. He saved the file and labeled it clearly. Then he sent an email to the HOA board. He kept it polite and professional. In the message he said, "Hi, I received a noise complaint filed by Karen Delaney tonight. I want to make sure everything is clear. I was home alone all evening. No guests, no loud sounds. I've attached a recording from my audio device showing that my apartment was completely quiet during the reported time. Please let me know if you need anything else." He hit send and waited. The next morning, he got a reply. The HOA thanked him for providing the information and said they would review it. They also mentioned that false complaints could lead to disciplinary action. Jason read that part twice. Maybe, just maybe, this was going to help. But Karen wasn't done. A week later, another complaint came in. This time, she accused Jason of playing bass-heavy music late at night. According to her report, she couldn't sleep because the vibrations were shaking her walls. Jason laughed when he read it. He didn't even own a subwoofer anymore. He had sold it months ago. Still, he checked the recorder again. The file showed nothing but silence between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Not even a cough. Not even the sound of the fridge. This time, Jason decided to do more than just respond privately. He printed out a copy of the recording timeline and left it in Karen's mailbox with a short note that said, "Thought you might enjoy listening to the peace and quiet last night. Hope you slept better than you claim." It was harmless. A little. Sarcastic, maybe, but not rude. Karen didn't respond. At least not right away. Then came the next HOA meeting. It was held in the community room downstairs, and everyone was invited. Jason decided to go, mostly to see what would happen if he brought up the complaints. Karen was already sitting in the front row when he walked in. She gave him a cold stare as he took a seat near the back. During the meeting, one of the board members mentioned something about noise policy updates being considered due to recent issues. Jason raised his hand and asked if those issues included complaints that had been proven false. The room got quiet. Karen sat up straighter. Jason continued, "I've received multiple noise complaints recently. Each time I've provided audio, proof that no noise occurred. I'm not here to cause drama. I just think it's important that we're honest with each other." There was a pause before the board member responded. We take all reports seriously, Mr. Morgan. We also appreciate residents providing evidence when available. That was it. No apology, no warning. But Jason knew something had shifted. People were starting to notice Karen's behavior. After the meeting, a few neighbors came up to Jason and said things like, "You did the right thing," or, "We heard about what happened. You're not crazy." One older man even joked, "Maybe Karen needs new earplugs." Jason smiled, but inside, he knew this wasn't over. Karen was stubborn, and stubborn people don't always back down when exposed. Still, he had taken the first real step toward clearing his name and proving that some complaints weren't based on truth, but on something else entirely, and he was ready for whatever came next. Karen didn't like being challenged. That much was clear after the HOA meeting. She had walked out with her head held high, but Jason could tell she was upset. People started talking about it more openly now. Some were even making jokes. Nothing cruel, just light comments here and there. But Karen wasn't the type to let things go. If anything, Jason's response seemed to make her angrier. The next complaint came just 2 days later. This time she accused Jason of slamming his door at 1:30 a.m. According to her report, it woke her up and caused her stress. Jason checked the audio recorder again. It showed nothing unusual during that time. No loud noises, no footsteps, not even a creak from the floorboards. He knew what this was. Karen was trying to wear him down. Every false complaint, every accusation, it was all part of a pattern. She wanted him to feel guilty, to apologize for something he hadn't done, or maybe even move out altogether. Jason decided not to respond right away. He waited a few hours, then sent a short message to the HOA board. "Hi again. I received another noise complaint from Karen Delaney. Once again, I was home alone, and my apartment was quiet during the reported time. Attached is the audio file showing no noise occurred. Please let me know if you need anything else." It was polite, it was professional, and most importantly, it was backed by proof. Still, Jason knew that just sending the recording wasn't going to change things completely. The HOA needed to take action, not just ignore the problem. So he made a decision. He would bring it up, again at the next meeting, and this time he'd be ready. Over the next week, Karen stepped up her game. She left a note on Jason's door that said, "You may think you're clever, but people see through your games." Then, one morning, Jason noticed his trash can outside his door when he hadn't put it there. Someone had moved it overnight. He didn't confront her directly. He didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing him angry. Instead, he kept doing what he did best. He collected evidence. Then, one night, something different happened. Jason was working late again, finishing up a big project for work. Max was asleep beside him. Around 10 p.m., Jason heard a sound near his front door. It was soft, like someone was standing close and breathing heavily. He paused and listened. There it was again, like footsteps, but not walking, more like pacing. He grabbed his phone and opened the app connected to the small security camera he had installed above the door. The screen lit up, and there she was, Karen, standing outside his apartment. Not knocking, just standing there, watching. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. She stayed there for about 5 minutes before finally walking away. He checked the time and noted it down. He also saved the video footage. The next day, he added it to his growing folder of evidence. He labeled it clearly and made a backup copy just in case. That night, Jason sat down with his laptop and drafted an email, not just to the HOA board, but to the building manager as well. He explained everything calmly and clearly. He attached the video, the audio files, and copies of the complaints. He wrote, "I'm writing to share a record of recent events involving Karen Delaney from Unit 5B. Over the past several weeks, I have been falsely accused of multiple noise violations. Each time, I provided proof that no such disturbance occurred. Despite this, the complaints continue. Last night, Ms. Delaney stood outside my apartment for several minutes without knocking or speaking. This behavior feels intimidating and unwelcome. I am not looking for revenge or conflict. I simply want to live in peace without being harassed. I understand the HOA must remain neutral, but I hope these records will help ensure fair treatment moving forward. He hit send and leaned back, in his chair. For the first time, Jason felt like he was actually fighting back, not with anger or insults, but with facts. A few days passed. Nothing changed at first. Karen still gave him icy looks in the hallway. The HOA didn't reply. Then, one afternoon, Jason got a call from the building manager. Her name was Linda Harper, and she had always been calm and professional. "Mr. Morgan," she began, "thank you for the information you shared. We've reviewed the materials and spoken with Ms. Delaney. We want to remind everyone that while we take all concerns seriously, misuse of the reporting system isn't acceptable." Jason asked if that meant Karen had been warned. Linda hesitated for just a second. "Yes. She has been reminded of community guidelines and asked to be respectful moving forward. It wasn't a full apology. It wasn't a punishment. But it was something. And for the next 2 weeks, the complaints stopped. Jason allowed himself to relax a little. Max seemed happier too. Life went back to normal, or as normal as it could be after everything. But deep down, Jason knew Karen wasn't finished yet. And sure enough, just when he thought things were calming down, another complaint arrived. This time she claimed Jason had thrown something against the wall at midnight. Something heavy, something violent. Jason looked at the audio file. Silence again. He smiled, shook his head, and started preparing for the next HOA meeting. This time, he wouldn't just show the truth, he'd make sure everyone heard it. The next HOA meeting was just a few days away. Jason had already prepared what he was going to say. He didn't plan on yelling or making accusations. He just wanted everyone to hear the truth for themselves. He printed out a list of all the noise complaints Karen had filed against him. He added timestamps, notes, and attached copies of the audio files that proved silence during every reported time. He even included the video of Karen standing outside his door late at night. It wasn't just about proving himself anymore. It was about showing the whole community how easily someone could misuse power and cause trouble without any real evidence. On the day of the meeting, the community room was full. People were curious. Word had spread after the last meeting, and more residents were starting to pay attention to what was happening. Jason arrived early and sat near the middle of the room. Karen walked in a few minutes later, dressed in her usual neat clothes. She gave Jason a cold look but said nothing. She sat in the front row like always, arms crossed, as if she already knew everything would go her way. The meeting started with the usual topics: parking rules, landscaping updates, and a reminder about recycling bins. Then came the part about noise complaints. One of the board members cleared her throat and read from a paper. "We've received several noise reports over the past few weeks. We want to remind everyone that while we take disturbances seriously, we also encourage residents to be fair and honest when filing complaints." A few people glanced toward Karen. Some whispered quietly to each other. Jason raised his hand. "Yes, Mr. Morgan," the board member asked. "I have something I'd like to share," Jason said, standing up. "I've been receiving multiple noise complaints recently. Each time I provided proof that no such disturbance happened, but instead of stopping, the complaints kept coming." Karen rolled her eyes but stayed silent. Jason continued, "I'm not here to blame anyone. I just think it's important that we understand how these reports work and why they should be taken seriously." He pulled out his phone and connected it to the small speaker system near the front. Everyone leaned forward, curious. "I recorded this during one of the nights I was accused of hosting a loud party," Jason said. He pressed play. The room filled with sound, or rather, the complete lack of it. Everyone listened to nearly 2 minutes of pure silence. No voices, no music, not even a dog barking. Then Jason spoke again. "That was between 10 p.m. and midnight, the time I was supposedly having guests over. As you can hear, there was nothing. Some people chuckled, others looked surprised." Jason played another clip. This one was from the night Karen claimed he was moving furniture and slamming doors. Again, silence. "This is what my apartment sounded like during that time," Jason said. "No movement, No noise, just quiet. He paused before playing the final file, the one that changed everything. This time, it wasn't an audio recording of his apartment. It was the video of Karen standing outside his door late at night. The screen showed her clearly pacing back and forth, looking around, then finally walking away. "I didn't post this online," Jason said. "I didn't yell at her in the hallway or call her names. I just saved it as proof of what was happening to me." The room went quiet. Even Karen didn't say anything. One of the older residents, Mrs. Thompson, finally broke the silence. "So, are you saying these complaints were fake?" Jason nodded calmly. "Every single one of them. I don't know why it's happening, but I do know that false reports hurt everyone. They waste time, create tension, and make it harder for people who actually have real issues." Another neighbor, a man named Tom, raised his hand. "Has anyone else ever gotten complaints like this?" Several hands went up. Karen sat stiffly in her chair. For once, she didn't seem smug. She looked uncomfortable. The board member who had been leading the meeting looked through the papers on the table. Then she spoke. "We've reviewed Mr. Morgan's concerns and the evidence he provided. We've also spoken with Ms. Delaney privately." She paused before continuing. "Moving forward, the HOA will be updating its complaint process. From now on, residents will need to provide some form of supporting information before formal action is taken." There was a murmur of approval in the room. Karen stood up suddenly. Without a word, she grabbed her bag and walked out. People watched her leave. No one tried to stop her. Jason sat back down, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. The meeting ended soon after. As people got up to leave, several neighbors came over to talk to Jason. "That was brave," one said. "You handled it really well," another added. Mrs. Thompson even smiled and said, "You did the right thing. Thank you for speaking up." Jason thanked them all politely. He knew he hadn't won everyone over, but he had done what he set out to do. He had shown the truth. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he could breathe easy again. Still, he knew Karen wouldn't forget what had happened. And even though the meeting was over, something told him this wasn't the end of the story. After the meeting, things started to change, slowly but surely. Karen was still living in Unit 5B, but she had become quieter. She no longer left notes on Jason's door. She didn't file any more noise complaints. People noticed that she walked through the hallway faster now, avoiding eye contact. Some neighbors even said they saw her packing boxes late one afternoon, though no one knew for sure if she was moving out. Jason didn't care either way. He just wanted peace, and for the first time in months, he finally had it. The HOA followed through on their promise to update the complaint process. Now, residents had to include some kind of supporting detail when reporting noise, like the time, the type of sound, or even a short audio clip. It wasn't a perfect system, but it helped stop false reports from being taken seriously without proof. And everyone in the building seemed to appreciate the change. Jason got more respect from his neighbors. Some even thanked him for speaking up. A few people told him they had been too afraid to say anything themselves, but after what he did, they felt like they could stand up for themselves too. One evening, Mrs. Thompson knocked on Jason's door with a plate of homemade cookies. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said with a warm smile. "You handled everything with so much patience. Not many people would have done that." Jason accepted the cookies with a smile. "Thanks, Mrs. Thompson. I just wanted to clear my name. Didn't want anyone else going through what I did." She nodded. "Well, you made a difference, and we all see it." That meant more than he expected. Max wagged his tail happily as Jason set the plate down on the kitchen counter. Life was starting to feel normal again. But not long after, something strange happened. One morning, Jason checked his mailbox and found a small envelope with no return address. Inside was a single note. That read, "I know what you did. You think you're better than me? We'll see." It wasn't signed. Jason stared at the paper for a moment. His heart beat a little faster, but he didn't panic. He folded the note and put it in a drawer with the rest of his records. If Karen was trying to scare him, she wasn't doing a very Good job. He decided not to let it get to him. Weeks passed. The weather got warmer. Spring arrived, bringing flowers and fresh air. Jason spent more time walking Max outside and less time worrying about who was watching him. Then one day Karen was gone. Her apartment was empty. Her car was gone. Her mailbox was cleared out. No goodbye, no notice. Just gone. People talked about it in the hallway. Did she move? Did someone tell her to leave? Was she forced out by the HOA? No one really knew. Jason didn't ask questions. He just felt relieved. Without Karen's constant complaints, life became easier. The building felt friendlier. Neighbors started organizing small gatherings again, barbecues, potlucks, even a movie night in the community room. Jason was invited to all of them. He went to most. He even brought Max once, and everyone loved him. He realized something important. During this time, standing up for himself hadn't made enemies. It had earned him support. Not long after Karen left, Jason posted a short version of his story online. He used an anonymous account and changed names to protect privacy. But he shared the full timeline: the false complaints, the recordings, the HOA meetings, and how he proved the truth. The post went viral. Thousands of people read it. Hundreds commented. Some said things like, "This is why we need proof before punishing people. You handled it with class. Karen needs to learn how to mind her own business." Others shared their own similar experiences. People from all over the world wrote about neighbors who had falsely accused them of noise violations, trash issues, or even calling the police over nothing. Jason read every comment. He replied to some. He offered advice where he could. Eventually, someone made a meme out of his story titled, "Played silence for Karen and watched her world collapse." It spread like wildfire. Jason laughed when he saw it. He didn't mind. If anything, it made him feel like part of something bigger. Months passed. Life kept moving. Jason stayed in the same apartment. Max grew older but still enjoyed his walks. The HOA remained calm and fair. And Jason, he was happy. Not because he won some kind of battle. Not because he embarrassed Karen. But because he stood up for the truth and showed everyone that sometimes silence speaks louder than lies. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is prove your side with facts, not anger. And sometimes the loudest truth is quiet enough for everyone to hear.